pow, 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 pow.
TV, keep it locked. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Power Chat. I am one of your hosts. Today, my name is Ronnie Music. Obviously, it's a very interesting surname. And now we've got the co-host over.
Nancy.
She does have a second
name. Oh,
however,
God!
However, her second name is quite difficult to pronounce. Me being a very good Ugandan, I'll leave it for Ugandans to figure out. Today we've got two special guests on the show. We've got Caroline and we've got Cleo. And we're going to let Caroline introduce herself first and then we'll take it from there.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, where you are in the world. My name is Caroline Namugabi. I'm a forensic psychologist. We have a youth forum coming on in March, and it's to do with empowering a frank dialogue, empowering the Ugandan youths within London in the UK. And it's going to be at number 25 Conway, Red Lion Square, nearest station are Holborn and Russell Square. And that is really to empower the Ugandan youth and encourage them with their cultural identity. What I mean by that is that when you empowering someone to sort of help them in their self-esteem, assertive, and to have courage to do what it is they want to do, but also keeping a healthy cultural identity. A frank dialogue means to have more than 2 or 3 more people sitting down and having a formal conversation and having different issues put on the table in order to discuss the way forward. And that is really it.
Okay, thank you, Caroline, for giving us that brief discussion of what you're going to be doing on the 29th of March. Please, whoever's watching this, please, if you're in London or if you're in Uganda, come along, come and see what's happening.
You, as you mentioned, you're aiming to speak to the youth that have grown up in the diaspora about Uganda. With Uganda being a country where you have about 52 languages or tribes, is it in particular to any tribe, or are you aiming to, what is it about? What would you be talking to them about?
We'll be talking to them about things that learned behaviors, basically. There's loads of learned behaviors that have come forward, even through the media, like Uganda being the 8th country of alcoholism. Learned behaviors whereby they carry the cultural identity to other cultures, i.e. It is not only for just a certain tribe. This is for the Ugandan people as a nation, not only for the tribes and things like that. This is a universal cultural thing, an identity thing, and a self-esteem thing within the Ugandan community in the UK. As we know, some of them have different worries of lack of support within our parents. So this dialogue is alongside parents to tell them, we are the youths now. You've groomed us, you've grown us here. How can you support us in our different talents that we have, also upholding the cultural identity? So this is what it's about. It does not segregate the cultures or the identity of anybody within Uganda.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining us today is Cleo. She is a Ugandan that has grown up in the diaspora as well, and she will be expressing her opinions about Ugandans in the diaspora, in reflection to having kids, raising them in the diaspora, and also taking part in the forum that you're speaking about. Chloe, what do you think about this youth forum?
I think it's awesome. I think it needs to be done. I think the Ugandan community within the diaspora needs a forum where they can go and express all the issues that they are facing, whatever identity crisis that they are having. They need to go somewhere where they can express what their concerns are and have people that have the experience to, give them the information that they need, so that if they need to identify with themselves, They can go and do some history classes and things like that, get to know what Uganda is about, what things did they do, and not just up until the 18th century, but to the 16th century, to the 14th century. We have history going way back, you know. So they need to know that. And I think identity is a very important thing. If you can't identify with who you are, you feel lost. Because as a Ugandan living in the UK, you yes, you can be born here and say that you are a British citizen, but you are a British citizen second. You are Ugandan first. Yeah? So it is important to know, you know, your identity, and once you can connect with that and you can understand that and you can see what your people did, what your ancestors did right up until now, you know, you can have a connection with that. And when you start to identify with who you really are, you know, it's important because it gives you a different, refreshing type of feeling and wanting to go forward in a different way. But when you are just born here, you're a black British citizen, you know, I mean, you're not, you are a citizen, yes, but you're not really accepted per se, you know, and certain people will let you know that, you know, and everything here obviously is European. Do you know what I mean? So as an African person, you need to identify with your roots. That's really important because that's where you can be grounded.
You will have, I believe, quite a few youths that will say to you, well, I grew up in England. What has Uganda got to do with me? You know, what would I learn from this? What am I going to achieve out of it? I can, my friends are over here. I haven't got that much to do with Uganda. So what experiences, what can you tell me that I would learn from taking part?
Okay, reverting back to what Chloe said. Chloe said that because you're British, it does not make you English, right? You have origins. You're originated from the Africa, the motherland. You see, you have parents of that origin. So what will happen is you will now assimilate to try to be an English person, but you're not. You have origins from Africa. This will help you to accept your identity and to also meet people within the diaspora, the youth, the forum for the youth on the 29th of March, that are professionals that have a healthy identity that is from a Ugandan origin. You understand? And therefore, you could have, there's a lot of youths that are unemployed, right? Ugandan youth in the diaspora that are well learned, but they can't find jobs. We have doctors and lawyers that can mentor them or give them references. There's so many other tribes, like the Indian tribe, the Chinese tribe, they have their community helping their own indigenous people with referencing and also giving them that experience to work for them to get that experience. And also, being in England, you have to assimilate with their culture, but also obtain your culture in a
citizen and being a British national. Some of the youth are not aware that, you know, being a British citizen does not mean you're a British national. You know, some of them feel like, well, I was born here, so I'm a British citizen, so, you know. But you're not a national. A national means you are English, you are, you know, you're a national.
Yeah, but can I just stop you there? A lot of young black males, females, but black, they say they're born here. So the moment they say you're born here, you're automatically English.
No,
and that's
they're
how
a British
they
citizen.
look at themselves.
Yeah, but they need to have a distinction between the word citizen and a national. They're not the same.
Okay.
So you are a British citizen, or you're a citizen of this country, that's fine, but you are not a national. You are a national of where you are, your parents and your descendants are from. Do you see what I'm saying?
Okay.
So our youth need to be able to understand that and identify with their nationality. So like, for example, I always, my children say that they are African first and they are British second. Because they understand that they are citizens here. They're not nationals. They're not English. They are of African origin. Do you see what I'm saying? And so if you don't have that foundation and understand your nationality, it can be an issue. Yeah. Because as a citizen, you might be born here, but you don't really understand the English culture. You don't really understand it like fully. Do you know what
Yeah,
I
but
mean?
May
And
I
that's the
enlighten?
cause issue.
hold on, let me
Can
just say,
I put light to that?
you put light. Can I just say about this again? We've got a history where you've got black people who came to England, say in the mud rush of 40s,
18th
50s.
centuries.
We're talking about recently where we had a mud rush of black people into the country.
Okay.
And, you know, you should at least have learned from that time. You know,
Okay.
Should have,
Should
but
have,
whether
should
you
have.
did is a different thing. Because
Let me enlighten.
they don't teach African history as a curriculum
Yes,
in British
yes.
schools. They don't.
Yes.
This is something you have to teach your children outside of school. Now, if you are a parent who was born here and you identify as a British citizen and you're teaching your children nothing of African history, they would never ever know that.
yeah.
And they don't even Black History Month. It's all about you know. I mean,
I think what it is
Different.
with this is lack of knowledge.
exactly.
What happens is when, even here, I'll give an example. Being English, as you said, and being a citizen are two different things. When you look at it in the royalty aspect, royalties go by bloodline. You understand? Your bloodline is where you come from. This is why even in the British Empire, they go by bloodline. Yeah. Although a bloodline always have a like an invading culture in it. Like the Queen is German, the background is German. But when you know your bloodline, where you come from, then you know who you are. Then you start
Exactly.
to practice your identity.
Exactly.
And with that said, what you said in terms of like outside of the curriculum, outside of the box of society, because we are boxed into what society should be. The society puts you in a box.
Right.
But how you teach your children and your next generation, your offspring, is what dictates to a certain degree the outside influences. You as an environment, or like your culture, you as a person who's living in a country, like the Indians do it, the Chinese do it. They have their own schools. Invade your own way of learning, because we understand our cultures are not being taught in the curriculum.
Exactly.
So what are our options? So I think that's where we need to look at. It's nothing to do with where, and this is where it comes from. Black and white doesn't exist. It is the heritage. So it becomes an illusional thing. You know, it's where you come from, your bloodline, your origins, that holds your identity. Black and white is a color. Who are you? What are your indigenous people?
Exactly.
What are their values? What are their cultures? You know, so this is what it is.
Well, we as Ugandans, right? I don't know, British Ugandans, whatever you want to call it, we're sitting here and saying that we need to be able to know where we come from. You're growing up in England,
Yeah.
right? All your friends are English
Yeah.
to a certain point.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, you might have Ugandan parents training you at home to speak the language or to tell you about the culture. But this is where the Youth Forum, I think, comes into place, where you can go somewhere and learn something, I believe. We've never had anything like this before. But before that, we'll see, we would love to take part in the Youth Forum. But apart from that, growing up in England, unless you're going to get it at home from your parents, you're not going to get it anywhere else apart from the Youth Forum. I mean, so I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's up to the parents to teach us what we need to learn, or it's up to us as parents to teach our kids about where they're from, about
History
our
Month,
culture.
they do bring it up. They do bring up topics about slavery and the ships and how many people were taken to the States and to Jamaica and all these things. And people do get upset. I mean, they had Roots and all those types of films at the time, and people did get angry. You know, British people or British citizens, African British citizens that were living here were getting upset. But I think that's not even the issue when it comes to the slavery. I think that pre-slavery, pre-colonization, if they were to teach that history in schools or in the curriculum or even outside, like if we had big organizations that were really teaching that history, it is going to be different. Because
Definitely.
if you take a youth that is a British citizen here that only knows that I'm born in England and my parents are from Uganda, that's all I know. And a lot of youths, that's what they know. They don't know prehistory. They don't know that we came from dynasties of kings and queens. They don't know that, civilization started at the source of the Nile. Where is the source of the Nile? Do they know where the source of the Nile is? Do you know what I mean? They don't know about the kingdom of Kush and the Nubians and all that kind of stuff. If they know that stuff, it is going to empower their minds, because they're going to think, hold on.
Absolutely.
You're right. I just go
I
back to
come
what...
from kings and queens, They're going to be like, hold up. This is who I am.
Yep.
This is what my people did.
Yeah, but the thing is,
do you know what I mean?
Clear, I'll go back and say, you're right when you're saying they have been taught from slavery upwards. Yeah.
Exactly,
Black
because
history
what does
is
slavery do?
upwards.
She made a point that the slavery, for one, psychologically, is going to shut you down, because you're going to be so angry about, is this who I am?
Yeah.
It's a bit like when you see adverts of, these charity organizations, and they've got African children sitting on the ground and they're eating dirt and they've got flies all over them and they're really suffering. They're suffering from malnutrition and all these kind of things. Now, if you are a black child, an African citizen living in this country, and you are born here and you can't identify with Africa because you're not there, if you see that on the telly, you will not feel happy about who you are, because that is your brother and sister. That's your sibling out there.
It's all
psychologically, you are not going to feel empowered. You're not going to feel good about who you are. You're going to be ashamed. If they're showing black history in the schools, for example, and they're showing like, oh, we took you on the ships and we beat you up and we did this and we did that, they're not going to be happy, because they're going to be like, why should I identify with that? I wasn't even a part of that. Why? Do you know what I mean? So we need to go prehistory. We need to teach them who we were before we got enslaved and all these kind of things.
And in relation to what you're saying, I understand where you're coming from, your point of reference. What he said before, in terms of like, it's not helping us, the English, learning English and all that back in the colonization is not helping us, what is it? Then what we need then is the male role models, in terms of the boys, to be there, the male role models, the Ugandan male role models, to be there and teach them that. And also, because a lot of women are raising children by themselves.
What about the females?
Yeah,
I was about to say that,
children.
because actually the females play the biggest part. Because
yeah.
Remember, the men are going out and being the breadwinners.
I'm coming to that.
The women are the most important part. So if we educate the women, it is a total different ballgame.
I have to definitely agree with Cleo on this one. I say you always have to educate the women first. Because as we know, in reality, a lot of men are not around. They sort of disappear, leave the women with the children. So that means the woman has to play the man and the women. So it's really, really important when you're raising up your children. You've got a daughter. You have to instill this knowledge into your daughter. And she has to understand that there is a big potential, there's a big likelihood, due to the fact that the way men, I'll speak as a man, the way we've been conditioned, because our conditioning is so westernized.
Yes.
It's so European.
And
because it's so European, we almost try to think like Europeans.
Yeah.
And we try to act
it
and
goes
do what
back to slavery. You are conditioned. They took the men away first. They didn't take the women away. So there is a pre-planned agenda. Everything starts with an agenda. There was a pre-planned agenda. But having said that, let's revert back to the present. The present is me. I was raised with a Ugandan woman, African Ugandan woman. I was raised here in primary school up to uni. There's certain times in my teenage life where I rebelled. I've been stabbed before. I used to be one of the gang members here in the 90s, right? But because my mom was persistent in what she's doing, it reverted me back to myself. She instilled in me. She didn't sort of reject me, this and that. She showed me, no, I love you, Caroline. This is who you are. You understand? When you come to my house, you're going to eat the Ugandan food. You're going to know about my culture because I'm the one that born you. These are the exact words that my mother told me. As you said, you show me a woman and I'll show you civilization. Civilization begins from a woman. But having said that, these women, when they came from Africa, they came here to work and better themselves or their family. And so that part of them showing their children that they've had on this land has been omitted in terms of referencing them how their culture's about. There's so much needs and struggles that they had to go through and attack in this culture, that they forgot that they had to do that. It takes an extra individual person to know, you know what? No, I'm going to be persistent with my offsprings. I'm going to instill in this. Having said that, this is what the forum's about. Now it's a frank dialogue with the parents. How do we go forward in this? So the slavery issue, we can go and be pondering on it for years.
I don't
but
even
now,
think we should.
in the reality of it, we need to move
think
forward.
Sometimes
What
I
are
feel
the
that
solutions?
we
Yes.
emphasize so much on slavery and negative
shouldn't.
things, and
We shouldn't.
you know, people in the past. But we also need to, as I said, the youth that the kids that we're raising. We also need to give them role models for today.
Yes.
That they can look
Absolutely,
up to.
yes.
You know,
Yeah.
we don't have to go 10,000 years back.
Mhm.
There are people that they can still look up to right now,
This
that
is
they
true.
can relate to. Not emphasizing so much on the slavery or the bad things that have happened, because personally I feel that some people can't handle the negative things. So try and give them more positives than the negative, because this is when you get, I hear this up to this day, youths turning around and saying they don't know anything about slavery, right? And they'll turn around and say, we can't get jobs because of slavery. So people, I feel, tend to blame, to play the blame game on whatever they can. You know, no, slavery hasn't, yes, it happened, we need to know about it, but we need to, and sometimes I feel that, I was just going to mention, we look so much into history, but we need to look at now as well. How do we build ourselves now? Yes, we've grown up in England and we've got loads of things to deal with more than anything else, but we need to work on ourselves as people that have grown up in England.
Absolutely.
We understand that, but at the same time, I mean, I don't agree that you don't need to go back. You do need to go back. Other cultures uphold their history. You know,
Point of
they have it. They need that point of reference. They need to know where they have traveled from, the journey that they are coming from up until now. Yes, it is fine. We have to move forward, but for children who who have identity crisis, they need to be able to get in touch with their roots, with their nationality and who they are, where they're coming from, and they can, you know, when you go back to the history, there's a point where you begin starting to learn it, and then you go up until you come to present day. And that's what we need to do, because what it does is it really empowers you as a person. When you know who you are, then you are steadfast, and then you are like, okay, now we are in 2014, how do we move?
I feel that you have to start somewhere, and whatever you're doing, you can't please everybody, or you can't pull everyone in. If the Youth Forum has decided to just emphasize on the youth, then that is a start. And as Carol said, on top of emphasizing on youth, the parents are involved as well. But age up to 35, that's who they can work with right now. Then maybe later on they can do it for the adults as well. But then you can't put everyone in the same box, because the youths, I know that some youths wouldn't want to go to something
where there's old people,
people there, or where their parents are going
That's
to
why
be,
they're
if
always
it's got
separated
if it's
and
got
do
nothing to do
programs
with them. So they'll be able to ask questions that
Honestly.
are to do with them as
To
well,
their,
not to do
their
with
age group and
politics in Uganda. I don't think that many
They
of them
don't
would
want-
be
yeah,
interested
some
in
of them don't
politics.
even
You'd
know
be
about the
surprised, you know.
politics.
you'll be surprised.
But then they would still want most of these people, I believe, are people that have grown up in England.
Here, yeah,
you know,
in-
so the questions
yes.
that they would have would be things to do with that could be so naive about Uganda. So they need somewhere where they could go and express themselves and ask the questions that they want to ask, and an adult is not going to look at them like that was a stupid question.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I mean, you know, they've been having youth events for a very long time, because certain things are specific to the youth.
Yeah, but don't you
And I
find
think it's
don't you
important.
don't you find that every time you hear musicians, you hear this person, they're always talking about the youth. For some reason, it's like the youth sort of they produce themselves.
Okay, but
and then
let's
they
look at
suddenly
this.
appeared
But
on
let's
Earth.
look at this
You know,
though.
Therefore, forget that it's the parents that have to bring this up.
Right, but let's
You
look
know?
at this though. Let's look at this though. The youth are the future, aren't they?
Yes.
They are the ones.
Yeah, but how are they the future without the parents?
But listen, they are the future. But also, you've got to think about this, Ronnie. When you think about parenting, for example, when I think about parenting, I don't just think about the parents who actually gave birth to that youth, the biological parenting.
It's a village.
I see us as a
village,
community.
yeah.
We are all parents. So the people
Yes.
holding the convention for the youth are also
Yes.
parents. And we are
yes.
taking these youth under our wings, and we're trying to empower them from all corners, whether it's from the biological or from the not biological, because we are bringing in a community sense
Together. Community
of
spirit.
so that we can move forward, you know. So when I look at a Ugandan child, I don't think, oh no, just my child. No, every Ugandan child is my child.
Yes.
And if I see something that I don't like, I am speaking up about that, because that Ugandan child is my child.
Exactly.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Example,
So, for example, now, because the youth are the future, and because, you know, for them especially, because some of the older generations that you're talking about, 40, 50, some of them were born in Uganda, some of them might have been maybe born here, but maybe they've got, like, you know, Ugandan communities that they go to and whatnot. But the youth, for example, I feel are a little bit more in the lost category, because they don't really have things that they can go to and identify with, and it is important to get that sorted early.
As I was mentioning, we are all sitting here talking about youth, and unfortunately we haven't got any youths. But when I did speak to a youth and I mentioned the youth forum to them, they said some of the things that they would like to know if they came there were things to do with what can they do if they decided to go to Uganda. And it would be, as a tourist, yes, they can look this stuff up on the internet, but they would like to speak to someone that has been there. You know, we can easily look on the internet, but I would like to speak to someone. I would like to know what restaurants I could eat at, where I can go, what hotels I can stay in, what we've heard of the cultural dances that happen in Uganda, things like that. That's what youths want to hear. And the last thing, unfortunately, that they said they want to hear is politics. So,
unfortunately, if I interject, in any discussion, there's healthy politics and there's unhealthy politics. In any culture, there will be a political discussion. It is not of parliamental politics. There's politics within the people.
Exactly.
There's politics in everything. You have to know what the definition of politics is. This is what it is. When I say it in English language, it's very confusing. So these are, to put it in a nutshell, the question that you've asked, that this youth wanted to know where she or he could go to get this form of information. It starts with a dialogue. This is why the dialogue is happening on 29th of March, Red Lion Square, number 25 Red Lion Square, Conway Hall. You come, nearest station is Holborn, Chancellor Lane. You will find out all this sort of information. It will be a supportive system. They will find other youths there that will say, oh, you know what? Yeah, I went to, you know where the Lake Victoria, I went there. I went to the River Nile. Is the source of the Nile is in Ginger, actually. We drove miles away to go to the source of the Nile. But before that, I watched a program by a white lady on BBC, documenting the source of the Nile. You know, you get this information. This information will be within this forum, because this is the purpose of this forum. Aimed for information, and also let them bring their questions. Whatever you want to ask, you are welcome to bring those questions, because you have experienced people there on the segment. It's going to be like question time. If you watch question time, we'll have a panel of speakers, and then we'll have the mic go around, and you'll be able to ask any questions that you want. After each segment, then we'll have the entertainment segment, which on there will be a key speaker called Pauline Long, and MC Mose, and many more, who you ask questions. They've also got questions to ask the audience. So it's a dialogue, exchange of information. Then after that, we'll implement different workshops.
Can I just say, you're talking about entertainment section.
Yeah.
You've mentioned Pauline Long. She's not Ugandan.
Absolutely not.
So wasn't it possible to get Ugandan to do it?
There is different Ugandans that will be on that panel. But the reason why we brought Pauline Long in, because she's of East African origin. She's from Kenya, and she's a woman who has been in this entertainment sector on a higher rank. She's opened up. She's got her own mobile award, BAFTA award, where she's actually created an African award, where you can get, as an African entertainer, you can be awarded for your work and your effort. You know, so this is why we brought her in as a role model, and she is a very humble woman.
Okay.
Are there any Ugandan awards?
Well,
They must be.
I heard that there is from what I recall, there is East African awards, but I've never heard of any Ugandan awards. Maybe you, as Mrs. Nancy, can invent that.
But does they have? But what is this about? You know,
And
the
Mr.
Ugandan
Ronnie.
award, the Nigerian award, the Zambia award. What is this?
Well,
Why does there have to be an award for a particular country? Because hold on a second. Before Muzungu came and divided our land with a ruler and a pencil, we were all one.
All
Yeah.
one,
We're
yes.
all Africans.
And unfortunately, right?
So why this
Unfortunately,
distinctions going
there
on?
is the mobile awards. There's the Brit Awards.
The mobile awards, okay, fine, but that's
right. So and then there's the, I don't know what they're called, Nigerian awards, Ghanaian awards, right? We just cater for Nigerians or Ghanaians. There's the Jamaican awards. Why can't there be any Ugandan awards? Everyone else is taking care of their own. Why can't we take
There
care
is
of our
Ugandan
own?
awards in Uganda, but not in London.
Right.
They have Ugandan
what I was
awards,
thinking.
right, in Uganda, but not in the UK. This is where lack of knowledge comes from. Is so when you put yourself more in the Ugandan community, you get to know this knowledge and this background of what's going on. Having said that, it doesn't stop you creating that Ugandan awards in this country. Oh, Mr. Ronnie here. That's a new venture.
Yeah. To find out what the
Extremely
Ugandan
busy.
awards are, because
I've
as
got
far as I know, they
things
were
to
not
do.
existent anymore.
Yeah, but are they going to, like, for example, the people who are giving out the Ugandan awards, will they cross over and say, okay, also the Ugandans in the diaspora, anywhere, wherever they are,
Do you know,
can be also given this award?
I'm sure.
That's another thing altogether, because they might...
Hip Hoppo? There's the Hip Hoppo Awards that were recently out there, and they catered for Ugandans in Uganda and Ugandans in the diaspora.
Okay.
The thing
That's
is,
awesome.
there's so many things happening, and half the times we don't know what's going on, just because we don't
We
have
are a segregated community.
We're quite segregated because
We don't have a
sometimes
main focus.
sometimes we come from so many different tribes, and you find that the people that are from that tribe and that tribe, they're just not communicating to that tribe and this person. Because what you find is, especially like other television shows that you have, I'm not going to mention the names, they're geared to Baganda, for instance. You get people that speak in Luganda all the time. It's like, just make it a little bit more inclusive, so people can then feel like they're part of something.
And if they're making it inclusive, what language should they speak?
We're going to speak a language that we can all understand, which is English.
Oh, no.
It's
Now, do not...
Sorry, I had to say that.
I completely disagree.
The reason why I say that is
we can
because
speak English,
it's
but
because
the issue is
it's just
we're
gonna make
still
it easier.
But the issue is we are still going away from this whole conversation we're having about our identity.
Yeah, but okay, where are you going?
So what language
would you be?
then?
Well, I think that we should vote on a language that we should all agree that will be our language, but it has to be African. For example,
It can't be African, it can be Ugandan.
For example, okay, Miss Uganda.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into Power Chats. We've had an absolutely awesome time with myself and Nancy has with Caroline and Cleo, and thank you so much for being on the show. We absolutely appreciate the fact that you've been here. We've been talking about the Ugandan Youth Forum. However, obviously, because I'm just over 35, I think I might not turn up because it's not within my reach. Otherwise, not Nancy, sorry, Caroline, any last word you need to say?
Yeah, I would like to call all the Ugandan youths out there, doesn't matter what tribe you come from, Ugandan youth as a nation who are in the UK, who are willing to contribute in a healthy way and meet other youths and interact, to come down with your questions, discuss topics that you need to discuss, and then we'll move it forward from there. Everybody's welcome, and I encourage the parents to come and also hear the concerns that the youths have. Thanks for having us. That's the Ugandan Youth Forum on the 29th of March, Red Lion Square, and that's it really.
Okay.
I just wanted to mention as well that I believe that it's Ugandan youths of mixed parentage. You don't have to be your mom and dad Ugandan. It could be just your mom is Ugandan or your dad's Ugandan, and you'd like to know or learn about Uganda. Then you're more than welcome to be there.
Absolutely.
Cleo?
Yes, it's been a very interesting
Hour.
yes.
Has it been an hour?
Has it been an hour?
Yeah.
We've
Yes.
probably been talking for an hour, but we'll be less than that once we've
I've had a good time. Thank you for having me on the show, and I would encourage the youth, and and the other, the older generations, everybody really, to go and find out about our history. There's so many people out there who are teaching it, and who are willing to answer questions, and there are books and so many things that we are not being taught in school, even back home. So please go out there, find it, YouTube, everything. It's all out there. That's all I want to say.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I love you. You give